Hey guys, welcome back to another video. We're back in the raids, and sorry this one took so long to get out. After I cleared the raid the first time, I fully intended on doing a wave by wave guide, but we obviously had to collect the points to be able to run the raid again. So we finally got there, and here we are, and now we're going to be doing our wave 1 guide. Now, this one is going to be, this isn't like my personal theory crafting and how I came up with it. This is a big community effort from all the guys on Discord. There's so much knowledge there. If you're not on the Discord yet, get over there, because this is how I found out all these strategies. Basically, I didn't have much time to play it when it first came out, and I jumped on Discord and there was so much information, people sending me direct messages to let me know what the go is. I originally, we'll have a quick look at the skills of the boss first, and then we'll talk about the strategy. So he's got his normal attack. He's got one that removes all beneficial effects, blocks the enemy. This is his big skill that he has on every wave, and then just kills someone, so at random. Apparently it's not affected by taunt either yet, so would be cool if it was affected by taunt so you had some control, but it just kills one random enemy. So that's that one. Then he's got this one, the enrage, basically. So 18 turns it takes him to get there, but it is a big one. Then his passive is he can't be directly targeted, which means you've got to use AoE to get him down. And then his other passive is that anytime you defeat one of his allies, there's the Fire Mauler and the Wind Giant. Anytime you kill either of them, he'll instantly bring them back and give himself attack and defense buff. And this is the main reason. Big shout out to Sigma. He was the first one to DM me and say, listen, bombs are the way to go. Big shout out to him. He does, he's on Twitch. I'll leave his link in the description. Then ATS sent me a video of him doing crazy amounts of damage on the boss, using obviously good units, but double Earth Zealot, I think it was a Water Holy Sister, and then a Fire Giant, and I think he was using an Earth Rakshasa. I think he said that double bomber works better, and then also to Snow to Crow, who then extended it and said using 4 cooldown reducers and 1 bomber was awesome for him. I believe he had the Fire Giant, which is a big one, but we'll talk about that in a sec. So big shout out to all those guys. I'll leave their stuff in the description. But yeah, when we look at this boss, so the first thing I tried was using AoE nuke as like my Fire Dragon and all that, and it didn't really work because the boss always has that defense buff, and if you're going to bring a Purger that doesn't do much damage, keep in mind that the adds on this wave are really squishy. They die to anything basically. So to bring these guys with a Purger, then obviously your attack buffer and all that, it just became too much to fit into the team, and then you need your armor break as well, and it was just too hard. But when I went into the bombers, we'll have a look at my bomber, which is the Water Witch, and I'll show you her stats. So she's very poorly glyphed. It may, like, for my glyphs. The other thing is, if you're using something like the Earth Zealot like I am and the Wind Crusader, my team is going to be the Earth Zealot, Wind Crusader, Water Holy Sister, and Water Vampire. Ideally, I'd have double Wind Crusader in there instead of the Vampire. But when you're using those turn bar boosters in that team, you don't actually need to invest in speed. I've put speed, and she wants percent. I've put flat. It's just spare glyphs that I had. I put a defense there just to make her survive. All these glyphs aren't maxed either, so she's fairly average, but her bombs with attack buff will hit the boss for 20k each, which is fairly decent. I know people have been hitting 50k plus with bombs, which is amazing. So we'll just go back into it, and I'll show you the teams, the different sort of things that I've been trying with that bomb thing. I am gonna build a second Water Witch to test double bombs, but like I said, Snow reckons that if you have the units, the extra turn bar increase is awesome. So the teams I've been using have been her with the Earth Zealot, and then obviously the Water Sister, Water Vampire, and Wind Crusader. So the big thing about this team is that because you're killing the enemies all the time, they're always going to be revived, so it's hard to control them. I have got a fear with the Vampire, but that's about it. And the Fire Mauler can one-shot my Earth Zealot, which really hurts me. So I've actually been testing using the Water Bird in that place, because the cool thing about the Water Bird is that it has the speed slow. It's always good to slow the boss. It gives you more chances to get turns. So speed slow is one of the big things you want to bring into this. Another important thing is some turn bar manipulation for those ads, because even though they die a lot, if you keep reducing their turn bars, hopefully they won't be able to get as many turns on you. The other awesome thing about the bird is I can attack break those ads, or I can shelter my team, meaning that the Mauler doesn't one-shot my Earth Zealot. That's a big thing for me. So this is actually the team I'm going to probably use for my real battles, just because my Earth Zealot is glyphed for Arena, so he's just the fastest possible, so he's not very tanky. So that's why I kind of need that extra support. Something else you could try, obviously the Earth Zealot's amazing. If you don't have him, I'd just stick to using the Fire Nymph. Obviously, your damage isn't going to be as high because you don't have that extra cooldown reduction, but you know, that just happens. That's just the way it is. If you don't have the units, you're not quite going to do the damage, but you can still do very decent damage. You can also try maybe a second bomber in the place of that bird. I probably wouldn't go straight into that. Other units, if you have the Fire Giant, like I said earlier, he is amazing because his bombs also attack the enemy, so it's extra splash damage, and he applies an AoE speed slow, so he's absolutely awesome in that sense. He's definitely the best bomber to take into this, just for that extra support he gives. But yeah, in general, what you're going to be looking at is doing that sort of team. So if I just jump into this, I'll just show you the damage of my bombs, and then I'll talk about the other strategy I tried. The other strategy was this guy. I just made a video on him, and someone said, why don't you use him against the raid boss and see what his drain does? So I did that. We'll just do a safe battle for now. I tested him, and unfortunately, on the same glyphs I had in my video, so he had pretty high attack. His drain, when my Juggernaut had attack buff and the boss had attack buff, the drain was only draining for 3k damage, so it's very average. So here's the one. The first up, I'm going to try and land that speed slow on the boss. Awesome. And then it's just rinse through the cooldowns. And a big thing in this team, if you're using the Water Holy Sister and the Wind Crusader, is the Wind Crusader on double meditation, because he's got a 6-turn cooldown. If he had a 5-turn cooldown, these guys would be able to use their skills non-stop. So the double meditation gives the Crusader that chance that it acts like a 5-turn cooldown, and it rinse and repeats. So that time he actually got his proc. So you'll see here that I'll be able to actually run through these skills again, and the Crusader's one will be up. That's because he got his proc of the meditation. So there we go. And then he got it again. So this is going to be good. So if you look at the damage at the moment, it's at 615. And when I land this bomb, okay, so she missed the bomb on the boss. That's another thing you do get from time to time. But here we go. We'll go again. Put the shelter back up, slow them down. Go again. Okay, that time my Crusader didn't get the meditation proc, so it's going to be longer between my turns. So we'll do this, and then we'll apply the bombs again. So there you go, 22. So it's about 21,000 damage with my very average glyphs for my standard. Obviously, people early in the game won't be doing quite as much, but it's just where you're at. But I definitely think no matter where you're at, and there you go, that's the bird. You get that attack bar reduction. I missed it on the Mauler, which is hurtful, but yeah, the bird is actually really good just for that speed slow, the attack break. You know, if your glyphs aren't quite up to scratch, it's a very good safety net to bring. Obviously, you'll be doing a little bit less damage, but it might help you survive other things. And the other thing I wanted to look at was the boss's skills. So when we look at this, removes the beneficial effects, kills one random enemy. That's an 8-turn cooldown. Keep an eye out on this. When you get, see, I normally start doing it within 1 or 2 turns, and I pick a unit that I'm gonna, that's, if the things don't go right, is gonna be my sacrificial unit. So once this is 2 turns away from being used, I'll start fleeing. And in this one, I'd be choosing the bird as my sacrificial unit because I really want my cooldown reducers and my bomber. So I'd start with the Holy Sister and try and flee with her. Okay, there you go. You've got your flee. So it's a 70% chance. So if you do it within 2 turns of the boss, you should be pretty safe. The other reason I leave the bird there is because the bird's fairly tanky. It has the attack break. It has the shelter if it has to keep itself up a little bit. And if you miss that first flee, you can always just choose to leave it there and get through that attack straight away. Let the bird die and then bring something else the next turn. Because if you do flee with everything, then you're going to have to put in a dummy team for one of your attacks to take the 1 hit, 1 kill. So it depends on how many monsters you have, really. So I'll keep fleeing with these guys. Depends how many monsters you have, in the sense that if you have enough good monsters that you can replace one in your team, I'd leave that one monster in for the 1 shot, 1 kill, so that you can actually do 5 full attacks. But if you don't have the roster, I'd flee with all of them the next turn, put in a dummy team, which is just going to take the 1 hit, 1 kill, and then get straight out of there. You can even take 1 monster in. So what I do is, for my dummy team, I'll be taking out all my monsters, and then I'll put just my Wind Death Knight in, and I know he'll... Oh, whoops. That was what I wasn't supposed to do, because I was leaving the bird in. But you get the gist. You just want to flee with everything, get out of there, just so you can start again. And now you'll see the 1 shot on my Earth Zealot. Oh, you didn't crit. Okay. So that's the idea. 2 turns before the boss's main skill, you want to flee so that you can get out with all your monsters alive and just put that dummy one in. So if we go to replay, I'll show you the sort of thing you can do. You can put in anything that you're not really keen on using. For me, this guy is going to do no damage for me in the raid, so I throw him in, he'll survive, and then he'll take the 1 shot, 1 kill, and we're all good. The other thing then after that is you'll be going in again. Say in that team I lost my bird, then I would just go for something like this. I'd just bring that other team and just hope my Earth Zealot didn't get 1 shot. So we'd be looking at something like that was the sister, that one, and then we'd go back in. Okay, so then now the boss's his 1 shot, 1 kill will be on full cooldown because he just used it. And if I hadn't stated it already, the boss's cooldowns remember where they were from the previous battle you did. And that would mean after 8 turns there, this one would be at about a 9 or 10 cooldown. So this run, what you want to do is the same thing, but then your next dummy run, you want to get through that enrage phase as well. So you'll need to bring more units to survive that boss's 1 shot, 1 kill, let him kill something, survive 1 or 2 more turns until he enrages, and then you can get out of there. That way, the next run, your final run, will be a lot safer. You've only got to worry about that 1 shot, 1 kill. You probably won't even get around to him enraging. And yeah, so you'll just be able to do as much as damage in that last one. Just let monsters die to the 1 shot, 1 kill and just see how much you can get. But once again, it depends on your point in the game. If you've got a lot of units built, you can do that sacrificial one on your actual runs. Have the one monster get sacrificed to the 1 shot, 1 kill, so you get more proper runs in on your team. But if you don't have the units, just do the flee and then just get away from there, reset, put your dummy team in, and then bring your good team back in. So that's the basic gist of the first wave of the boss. I will be adding in guides on the second waves, second, third, and fourth waves. Also, if you have any other ideas that I haven't put in there, please let me know. I will be doing more content on this. It is still very early days, so there is a great possibility that there's some amazing strategy that I have missed. But I hope this will help you guys out a fair bit. Like I said, I'll be doing guides on the next few waves, but I might just hold out a bit on those ones because at the moment HP scaling seems a little bit high, and basically monsters that do damage based on the enemy's max HP are right now 100% the way to go for all those waves. Single target, just nuke the boss. You've got the Earth Djinn, which is a great option. You've got the Jackalmans, you've got the Mystics with their evolution skill. They're all great options. I'm just not sure if it's going to stay that high. So I'd like to just sort of wait and see what happens. before I make those videos, just in case there is a nerf. I don't want to be making the guides to say do this and then have it out there, and then all of a sudden people are looking at it down the track if there's been a nerf and it's no longer as good. I'd hope that even if they do nerf it, it would stay strong, because obviously he's got a lot of HP, the boss, so you want to be doing decent damage. It's just that I think people are doing like 150k crits with the Mystic auto attack with no attack investment either, so it's fairly high. So I think it might get tuned down a bit, I'm not sure, but I'll wait and find out if it is going to happen or not before I do those waves. But finally, when I was editing this video, I realized that I missed some pretty big point, and that was your staff. Now, the staff is a really good source of utility for whatever you can't bring into your team. It's not going to be completely game breaking, but it's good to consider what sort of build you want to bring for your staff, considering the units you do have. For me, the big one that I like doing, if I don't have a speed slow on my team, if I'm not bringing that water bird in or something like that and I don't have the slow, get the Chimera staff with the speed slow. If you don't have all the cooldown resetters like I do with the Zealot and all that, it might even be worth doing all the attack buff chance increases, just because then you might get your attack buff up more often, your staff will do a bit less damage. But if you got a really good nuker that's doing some good damage, that might come into play. Or if you are using the bombs, your bomber obviously going to do more damage with those bombs with that attack buff if you can't keep it up 100% of the time. Moving on to that, I think always you want to go for the staff speed. Just get more turns with your staff, get those added effects. Just always helpful. This one isn't too important, this tree. I've just left it on the purge, which doesn't really help much when I'm using bombers anyway, with the boss's defense buff, but it could do a little bit. Then that last one I've gone for damage again. Like I said, you could go the chance to increase your attack a bit more. And then the last slot for this wave especially, when you're using bombers, I like using the delay, because the big thing is not letting those ads have a turn, and if you can reduce their attack bars, it's really helpful. So that's why I stick with that. But you can have a play around, see what you like using. If you're struggling to survive, maybe bring the materia with the attack break, the defense buff, the shelter, all that sort of stuff. And then if you don't have the speed buffer, maybe bring the anima. It depends on what you do, but have a play around with the staff on all the waves as well, and just see what actually works best for you. I know on the other waves I change this up a bit. I go for the elemental advantage, because when you are using attackers, the boss is neutral element to everyone, but you do gain advantage over him with this buff. Which is another reason I feel like the Fire Bird might even be decent. He's got that 3-turn cooldown attack buff that has the attack bar increase, and he's got elemental advantage for offensive and defensive, so that could come into play. The Fire Nymph, obviously you have that defensive elemental buff if you're using her, which is very handy as well, but that's another big one to play around with in all the ways, is that elemental buff, because it does have an effect. I know a lot of people think the boss is water, but he's actually just neutral to everyone. And the final thing I wanted to talk about was when to start building monsters for the raid. If you're still early game, if you still haven't got your dungeon team sorted, at least a Wrath 10 farming team, I wouldn't be building units specifically for the raid. It's just, if you can progress through the game quicker by getting your dungeon runs quicker and farming that and getting better glyphs, then it's going to put you in better stead for once you do finally build those monsters for the raid. It's just sort of it's a bit of a later game thing, but if you have units that you're building anyway that might help you, maybe even just, like for instance, if you want to use a bomber, maybe build a 4-star bomber and see how it goes. If you build a 4-star unit, you're not wasting too many resources, but for your 5 stars, I'd be focusing on those monsters to get your, especially your Wrath 10 team going smoothly, and then later on you can focus on the raids. But definitely you are going to want some specific units, but like if you have the Holy Sister, something like the Fire Nymph, or if you're lucky enough to have the Earth Zealot, they're units that help everywhere, so they're not bad to build. Same with the Wind Crusader, and the good thing about these support units is that the support units actually work really well at 4-star anyway. It's just your damage dealers that normally want to be 5-starred, so just have a play around. But definitely focus on your dungeon teams before looking too heavily into the raids. But that's about it. I hope this video helped you guys out a bit, and I'll be making the next two parts, sorry, the next three parts of this, but I might wait a little bit. Like I said, I want to see what happens with the HP scaling. But once again, thanks for watching another video, guys, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.